I'm glad you're back, Jennifer.
Yeah, we missed you last week.
Wait, and Jean just got here, is the commentary you missed.
Thank you.
Nan's not here yet, though.
That's right. I'd like to wait for Nan, if that's okay with the team.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
How's everybody doing?
Up,
Tenth-
up, better in a few days.
Yes, 10th grade today, huh?
Yep.
Is everybody tuned in? Are you tuned out of it or into it? I had to keep shutting it off. It's too nerve-wracking.
Yeah, no, I didn't watch last night.
I'm not even gonna comment.
Okay.
No.
Hey, Matt, before we begin, can I just ask you a quick maintenance question?
I've got the answer.
I call the meeting to order? Can we start with oh, there you are, Nan, you're just sideways.
I'm there. Yep, I'm there. Hi,
Okay.
there I am. There I am.
Sideways. Can you flip your phone?
Oh, there you go.
I can.
There you are, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
There it
Now
is.
you're right side up.
So I'm calling the meeting to order at 6:33. And the first item on the agenda, I have the approval of minutes from October 28th, 2020. Did everybody receive a copy of the minutes?
Yes.
Okay, great. Can we just look over them for a minute? Do I have a motion to adopt the minutes or any commentary?
Motion.
I have some
Motion.
commentary, excuse me, I have some commentary on the minutes, please.
Go ahead, Jean.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank Suzette for, that's a quick turnaround to do minutes. And I
Yes.
think we all appreciate that she did that, so thank you.
Thank you, Jean.
It's Suzette.
I have a couple of things. It was a quick turnaround, and so, it's easy to, kind of get overwhelmed with all the information, but I do have a couple of things I'd like to address.
Mhm.
Under attending for libraries, I think it's important to put that I'm the library director. Somebody reading the minutes might not know, who I am. So, under attending, where it says, so it should probably say library director there.
Yep.
Kind of an important element for me, because it is an important question, was underneath where Matt first asked about the Saturday hours. So I know this is a lot, and I'm happy to type it out and email it to you so that you can include all of my comments. The quotes here are part of what I said. And it's an important, it is important to the public. So let me just read how I had it, and then I'll send it, so maybe you can include it in the minutes. Matt asked, he had a question from the director's report, that he has a couple questions from people about, well, they appreciate curbside pickup, but they want to know about Saturday hours and, availability for pickup and so forth. Because accessing the library 8 to 4 is a problem for some people. And so I responded, kind of in detail, and I do think that it's important that the public understands, the whole, all the parameters. So my quote was, I suggest and encourage to have those people call me. I have met a number of people at 7 a.m. who are on their way to work who want to pick up materials, and they stop on their way. We sometimes also stay later. Just yesterday, Dave and Molly stayed for somebody who was running late, so we don't have a problem doing that. When they do pick up, they don't have to show a card. So a lot of people send family members or a neighbor to pick up the materials. That also works perfectly fine. We literally have put out thousands and thousands of materials. We only had one issue where somebody picked something up by mistake. Because we track all those slips, we knew exactly what the problem was, and we were able to resolve that. And in fact, when we did get the material for the person, we offered to drive it to his house, but he declined and said, that's fine, I'll come back and get it. If people can't get there, they can send somebody else. Materials are already checked out. It's not an issue. I also mentioned in response to this that if people, whoever logged into the special town meeting noted that the library's budget was cut by about $80,000, we don't have staff at this time, to open any additional hours. And I didn't know when that would be. I again strongly encourage that anybody who has questions to contact me directly so that I can have a conversation with them. It might even be that maybe we can deliver something to somebody. We did do that for a literacy packet. The woman couldn't come because she was home with small children, and we delivered it to her. We can't do that for everybody, obviously, and it's kind of the last resort because we do try to, arrange other things first. I'm really happy to work with everybody to make sure we can come to a mutually beneficial conclusion. Everyone I have spoken with, we have been able to resolve the situation very, very easily. When Mary also addressed this question, she said there was some commentary on the town site. I was unable to find any of that, and neither was Julie, but I want to answer it the same way. the
Mhm.
frustration about the library closed and questions when it's open. And again, curbside pickup, we're doing more than twice as much as other libraries in of our size. And
Mhm.
it's working extremely well. And I understand that people do have, challenges to getting there. Like I said, there are definitely some areas that we can work with them. And a lot of people have grandmother or somebody come to pick them up. So I just want to make sure that all gets in there, because I don't want the public to think that we're not open and we don't have an answer. We don't have any alternatives to that, because we do. And as everybody that I have worked with, I have been able to resolve this. I do talk to a lot of people. People have been very kind. There's not any, we've had some complaints, to be perfectly honest. They weren't Auburn residents, and they really have to go to their own home library if they have some issues about that. So I'm happy to answer any other questions you have, but I did want to make sure, and I'll type it up what I said so that all of my comments can be there. So the information is there for the public.
Thank you for your comments. I want to just make a clarification and then just a comment regarding some of the things that you just said. First of all, I accept, your input on the minutes. What I said in the meeting was the Auburn site, meaning the Facebook page of Auburn members. There was a lot of dialogue around frustration that the library wasn't open. So if I said Auburn site and it made it sound like it was the town site, it was actually the shared Facebook page for the town. I do want to comment, Jean, while I accept your feedback regarding customer care and how you want to meet the needs of the community members, I think a function of the board, which we'll talk about with the 6-step solving problem model, there has to be a way that we can identify issues that come up, identify what it is, where it comes from, how to resolve it as a board that includes the library director. I want to be careful that we're not just saying if somebody has an issue, they need to go straight to you. Just because it's been my experience professionally that when not everyone goes directly to someone when they have an issue, and then it's not resolved at all. So I'd like to use the opportunity to team build and to discuss issues and how to problem solve them rather than just passing them back to you. So is that clear what I said? I just want to make sure I'm not misunderstood.
I am just clarifying what it's going to conversation that is not really at this time. This isn't something that we should be discussing, I don't think. This was just what I'm saying, what my quote was, and I want my quote to be accurate and to have it specific information. As far as anything to do with operations, they do come to me. I am very attentive to the public, extremely attentive. And as far as opening or other things, those are definitely conversations that I would have with Julie, because it's also related to the town. So it's going to a conversation that is not intended. My comment here is just to please include my direct quotes, which I will be happy to send to Suzette, so that it's a lot to type in or to write down. So I will send it, and that can be in there.
And thank you for your input, but I just want to reiterate the function of the board is we're elected to represent the community. So that's not negotiable. And it's not a situation where we're making demands on the director or the library staff, but rather we are elected for a reason. So I stick to those comments, and it is an appropriate time to talk about those. So can we move on with the exception? Do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
I have one other comment on the minutes.
Okay.
Go
ahead, Jean.
I don't have it in front of me. 1 second. Where it says, all I'm asking is, I think that it needs to be sort of a clarification under the Auburn Guide newsletter, that 2-line paragraph, then it goes right into letter to and from town manager. I would suggest that says letter to and from town manager to the Board of Trustees. I think the public won't have any idea what it is, or maybe put a subheading on top of it or something, so that it's clear the letter was to and from the town manager to the board, and it's not necessarily a library operational letter, because I think it's very, it's not clear what that would be if the public was looking at it.
Okay.
Anything else?
Can I just comment on that?
Yes, please, Matt.
If we're gonna do anything there, it should say probably letter from the Board of Trustees to the town manager and the town manager's response.
Okay,
The town council's response.
Board of Trustees and from town managers response, okay.
Town council's response.
mhm.
Town council's response or town managers?
Town council. The town council responded to us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else, Jean or Matt or any member of the board?
Thank you, no.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion to adopt the minutes?
Motion to adopt pending changes.
Okay, with made changes, that's from Jennifer Lee. Shay,
Yep.
do I have a second motion to adopt the minutes?
I'll second that.
Paula Melican, thank you. I'm going to have roll call for board members. When I call your name, would you please respond yay or nay to the adoption of the minutes? Matthew Toth,
Yes.
Suzette Dowd,
Yes.
Nan Johnson,
Yay.
Paula Melican,
Yes.
Jennifer Shea,
Yes.
and I support the changes in the minutes as well. The next item, we're
Yay.
moving on, sorry. We're reviewing the bill schedule. Jean, did you want to share?
Does anybody have any particular questions about anything on the bill schedule?
I had one, if I can find it.
I know there's so much stuff tonight. Can't find it either.
Yeah, exactly.
I have it all on my tablet so that I can scroll because. So is that
Okay,
you?
I found
Go ahead.
mine. What is the Blackstone audio?
Those are our books on CD. But
There was just seemed to be a new name. I hadn't seen it before.
yeah, we used to
Books
have
on
a
CD.
we used to have a standing order with them. Standing order means they ship a certain amount depending on your contract. And then we suspended that for a while. They take up a lot of space. We had to do some weeding. So you probably haven't seen that in there for a while, but people do use them. And so we started ordering some again.
Okay. What does the American Library Association give for membership? Is that for directors or the library
That's the
itself?
director's
or-
membership. Yeah, the directors are expected to be members of the ALA, and that's the
Sure,
membership.
I
fee.
just didn't know if it went any beyond that.
Yeah.
Nope, that was all I saw was new.
How about Best Buy for Business?
Which one?
Best Buy for Business,
That's fine.
$549. Best Buy for Business,
Okay, that's on here.
$549.96.
That was for some portable DVD players that we're going to be loaning out to people. Not everybody has DVD players in their laptops anymore. And so that's going to be one of the items under our library of things. And those will be loaned out to people. So that's where we got the best price. And we were able to find them. They're kind of hard to find.
Oh, that's a strategic plan objective. That's a good thing.
Yeah, it is a good thing.
We will need to discuss at some point updating policies then, as the technology and computer laptop policy does not denote DVD players or potentially anything else that maybe is new, Jean. So we might need to table that for a discussion at a future meeting, but just want to bring that up, that we do need to update the policies related to.
Right.
future,
We don't currently, we don't currently loan any laptops. So this is really just a device to play something. It's not, they're not going to be input into anything.
Right.
So it's really just a matter of, of borrowing it. We don't currently loan laptops. We haven't since I've been there, as a matter of fact.
I know, but we discussed all of those and we redid the policies and having them in our back pockets. And even though someone's not putting their own content onto a portable DVD player, we should still have a policy around the management and the repercussions if something were damaged and all of that set forth. So anyone who does choose to take that out has an understanding of what the protocol is behind that.
Well, that's standard. It goes with everything. With, for instance, we had playways for a while that children borrowed. So that's standard. It goes with that there's a replacement cost. That's standard really with all materials. So, and that would be included with that. When they register for it, it will just be, you're expected to, treat the materials carefully and so forth. It's really
Understood. Still need to
important.
update the policies we have around technology and loaning out of items that the library owns.
That's right. I agree. Any other questions about the bill schedule?
That was it.
Does anybody have anything before we move on to the director's report? Okay, Jean, do you mind sharing the director's report?
Sure.
Thank
I
you.
don't really have anything under facilities this time, except to say that our plexiglass got broken again, so we'll have to fix it. It does provide some protection for the, the curbside pickup. The high winds just kind of took it. Just a little bit of information about the upcoming programs. The second of a 4-part series for Ted Reinstein is tomorrow night. A little bit about our fall 4-part mini reads program. This was quite successful, also very labor intensive on our part, but worth it. We provided 106 literacy packets to children, and everybody picks them up. Curbside pickup works very, very well. It's nice to see that people who started, they come back for everyone. So clearly they're very happy. We get a lot of really good feedback about that. It's important to recognize, this was just 11 days. This was 4 different series, different staff read stories. Then there was themes, and there were literacy packets and so forth to go along with it. And so they have to log in to to listen to the stories. And in 11 days, we had 1,008 page views. When you consider that's probably double because a parent is watching it with a child, or children watching it together or so forth. So I think that's, it was definitely efforts well worth it, because we did have a lot of people logging in to see them. And I'd also like to mention that we are not able to do this during our current work hours. We are consumed with curbside pickup. It's very, 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 very labor intensive, but we really want to stay connected to our patrons. And so, we put packets together at home in the evening. The staff sometimes read, outside at their homes or on Saturdays. So we're all working extra hours so that we can do this. We think it's really important to stay connected with children. So clearly we're happy that there were a lot of hits. Even if there weren't, we would still do it because it's important to stay connected. And I just want to say that, I truly appreciate my staff who work very, very hard at this. Right now we have the Alphabet promo that just launched on Monday. So the next, if you got all the picture of the jackets, these are the fleece line jackets with the Auburn Library logo on them. That Leanne commented on them.
Now, are these different than the ones they had before when you ordered t-shirts? Was that sweatshirts or was that fleece?
Those were a while ago. And they did have the t-shirts too for summer. But I can't take the credit for this because it was Julie's idea, but I'm fully on board with it. If any board members would like a jacket, we're happy to purchase one for you. I will need to know probably by tomorrow because the last day to order for this year is Friday. The company we use are on a calendar year. So they'll be tying up, their budgeting. It doesn't mean you can't get one later, but it does take a while to order them and get them in. And then they do the stitching. So I wear a medium, just to let you know, they come in ladies sizes and men's, just to give you a frame of reference. I wear a medium. Dave said he didn't mind if I told everybody he wears a men's large. If anybody wants one, please contact me by tomorrow. They're really comfortable. They wash nicely. You just hang them up till they're almost dry and put them in the dryer. They're very comfortable. And so you can, take a look at these and see if you'd like one. Anybody think that they would?
Yeah, you know what, Jean, I just had a clarifying question. Are they all fleece or are they fleece with sort of windbreaker material on the outside?
No, they're fleece.
Okay.
There's no windbreaker material. They're fleece. They have pockets and a zipper.
Neat. Very neat.
Does anybody think that they would want one. These would be, I would approve this from state aid funds if anybody does.
You know something, I would love one, and I think I need a ladies extra large at the moment.
I'd like one too, ladies large and blue.
Okay, if you, so I don't get it wrong, if you wouldn't mind just shooting me an email later, which color you want and which size you think you want. If you're not sure
What are
about
the
the size, I might be able to help you a little, but, sorry.
I'm sorry, Jean, I didn't mean to interrupt you. So what are the colors that are available?
Well, they're on the picture of the report, so I made it a little bigger. There's like a sage green, then there's the bright
Okay.
orange.
Oh, neat, okay.
Yeah, so they're all right there on the director's report cover.
Excellent, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So anybody else? I will follow up with an email, Jean.
Okay, anybody, please just do it by tomorrow so I can get to them and get the order in. If you change your mind later, you still can. It's just going to be next year before they'll order them, and it takes a while after you order them.
No problem.
So I also, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, no problem. Thanks for sharing that, Jean.
Yeah, that's good.
So I included, just because I thought that I hadn't, it's, if you don't see them, you don't know what we're putting out on our digital signs. I thought you might like to see, we've been very busy with the digital signs. We get some good feedback on those. So I just included, these are very flat looking and it doesn't look the same as the actual sign. The colors are really bright and they're nicely lit. I thought you might just be interested to see.
But the
what we're doing.
variety is so impressive.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Dave and I are a good team. I design them and Dave sits in front and programs it in. I drive him crazy because I know a little bit less green, Dave, or a little bit more, but he does. So,
Very good.
What is the
Good.
average length of time that you have a display on there? So not 6 months, but I mean, when it's rotating and you have things there, how long is it there? Because I drive by it regularly, but I don't know if we see all of them. And I was surprised by the large number of screen grabs you gave us. I assume that they cover a larger spectrum of time, but I just was curious how long you actually have each blurb on the screen before it rotates to the next one at a
You
current
mean,
time.
are you referring to the refresh rate or the actual content on the
The
sign?
refresh rate, the time that it rotates between one and the other on the screen as you drive by.
It's usually about 6 seconds. It's a state road, so we have to adhere to certain guidelines for the refresh rates.
Okay.
Sometimes it's too, long. Sometimes we'll go a little bit either way, especially if it's been something that's been up there for a while, or if it might take an extra second or two to read. But there are refresh rates by the state because it's a state road, so I adhere to those guidelines. It's generally 6 seconds, 6, 7, 8 seconds.
Generally just curious. I see them rotate, but I never bothered to time it
Yeah,
while driving down the road. I think that
right.
was
Very good.
We try, we're always out there looking to see, does somebody have time to read this before they're going to be past it? But, if you can't leave it too long, or they won't have a time to see any of the other ones. So,
Oh yeah, understandable. 6
Nice.
seconds seems reasonable. I just was
Yeah.
curious.
How many are in the cycle?
That varies. It kind of depends. I try to see what's upcoming and not put it too early. People get sick of it. So you want to sort of time, frame that. Is also depends on what's going on in the town. So if I want something voting, I also look to see to make sure we don't have a lot that's all blue. So it varies. Right now, I think there's only 3 up there. If you really put more than 4 or 5, people aren't going to see them all anyway. So we try to just.
Right. Okay.
So the state aid report is attached. We can look at that after this. I wanted to mention just a couple of other things. One thing about holds, which was in the newsletter, but I did want to point this out, that get my number correct. There were 2,000, generally, in the last time I assessed it was 3 or 4 weeks ago, 2,692 items each week. And so that sort of gives you an idea of how much time is involved with holds. And next month, I'm going to send you an infographic that will probably hurt your head to look at to see the complexity of the holds process. So this involves us emptying our book drop. Somebody wears a mask, gloves, and a face shield. because that's pretty risky. They're coming directly from the patrons. There's
Mhm.
multiple things that have to be done to every one of these books. So when you consider that, we're really touching books around 7,000 or 8,000 items a week. And that's a pretty risky situation, and it's going to be very well coordinated. And I just wanted to point out, that is, we're very proud of what we do out there. And I'm usually the one to bring the books out because sometimes people come up with masks, and I don't want to put my staff in any specific risk. But people are extremely appreciative. We hear that over and over and over on the phones. In addition to this, we're answering or making phone calls to about 40 or 50 a day oftentimes. So to my point, why doing programs, we have a hard time doing extra things in addition to running the library as a business. So I just did want to point out those numbers are valid, and it takes a lot of time, quarantine times, wrapping everything. Any other questions about that?
I have a question as a patron, not as the chairperson, but if say for instance, there was a list of the 10 most popular, most effective leadership books in education or whatever, like in a field. If an individual wanted to order those as like an audio book or a regular book, what's the process to order them, to actually order them? Would that have to be something that you found how do I say this differently? Would there need to be a high demand for certain books for you to order the audio and the actual hard text?
No. Let me back up a little bit. Usually we do some research for something. So we would see, first of all, how many other libraries in the system had the material. Because if, out of altogether, there's 147 libraries, but there are additional branches as well. So there's well over 200. So if that material is already available in 150 libraries, it doesn't make sense for us to order something and put it on our shelves because we're so tight with space. But that being said, we might look and see, okay, let's get the ebook, or let's get the print, or let's, we'll look and see. But that being said, I have never turned away a request from a patron for a particular book. And in fact, at one point, somebody wanted something and only one library had it and we couldn't get it. And I ordered it for this man. And I said, why? You had to go out of the region. Nobody had it. You had to go through Comcat. And I said, well, we need to get that book for this patron. So every patron's request comes through me, and I don't think I've ever turned away a request, but we do take a look to see what's already available because we want to be careful with the resources as well. So they just they can say it to any staff member, or they can call and contact me. That all comes through me, and I'm very happy to meet the needs of the patrons.
So do you mind if I email you like the top 10 leadership books and see if that's something that would be reasonable with the library, whether they were available?
If you have the titles, sure.
Yeah, I do.
You can send that to me.
Very good. Very
I
good.
just have one more comment. And I don't know if everybody has anything. If you want packets, and I don't mind every month if people are going to want packets, I do ask that you give me at least 24. Okay, if you just remind me every month that if you just at least 24 hours ahead, because it's really hard to do all this last minute when we've got, I'm happy to do it for anybody. I think you'll all agree. For those of you who've been receiving them, you just drive up and pick them up and it's working fine. But if you could give me at least 24 hours notice and just send me an email, because I have so many things coming at me all day and I want to make sure I don't miss it.
Okay.
Is there anybody that wouldn't want that?
I do not want a packet. I believe in the electronic world,
Yeah.
and I do not need a packet.
Good for you.
Congratulations, Jen.
I have a giant tote
You're
bag
saying that I think
here.
for some time, but I'd like a packet.
Yeah.
I like the jacket too.
I appreciate it very much.
So
And
everybody,
Yeah, and I will too, just because I keep all the notes from all the meetings.
Just to clarify, I enjoy the materials. I just don't need them printed. So one less to worry about, Jean. I am good as long as there's some
because, so everybody wants a packet except Jen, because it's frankly, it's far easier for me to put together all the packets at once than to be all finished. pack
Well said.
everything away and then make another packet. So if that's the case, then I'll put packets. I'll just have to get the materials soon enough if there's, there's anything to be attached.
Mhm. Mhm.
Sure. Everybody but Jen?
Yes.
Mary, I just have one question I'd like to ask Jean. The budget cut to the library, the 80,000, is there any place where there's information about what happened to all the departments in the town? And any information about what parts of the budget were actually cut?
Good question.
The,
Good
there is
question.
the special town meeting has information there under Article 2. And I believe you can get that from the Auburn website. That was Article 2, there were decreased items. There's other information as well. That's what I know off the top of my head was there were a lot of under Article 2. But I believe that there were other things and there were other conversations. So I wouldn't necessarily be the one to provide all that information, but I think if you go to or if you contacted Julie or Ed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jean.
You're welcome.
Did you have anything else, Jean?
No, if anybody has questions about the state aid report, I could answer those. I don't have anything else in my report.
I have a
Okay.
quick one.
Yeah.
What has been done? There was a line for professional development. I wonder if that was a previous budget line or how does that work?
Are you talking about the regular report or something? I mean, the budget or the?
In this, well, you said, I guess state aid was spent in a number of ways, and one of them was professional development.
Okay,
And I
Let me-
thought professional development had been a particular line item in our budget.
it is, but especially last year, I had to find 3,500 for the consultant. So
For
I
the-
had to,
for the-
for the consultant
what?
last year. For the
Consultant.
I'm sorry.
consultant,
I'm still
So
not hearing.
I had to find money in specifically for the consultant last year.
Oh,
So
yeah.
some other line items had to be decreased, and that was probably one of them. That one is, things like, the ALA membership are paid from state aid. That's, for professional development. So we've been, just to sort of byline, we've been doing a lot of professional development because it's so easy now to have it electronic. And so there's,
Yeah.
and logging in at various times, author reviews, things like that. So.
Excuse me, Jean, I thought in our budget last year, we had $5,000 under the consultant.
Yes, we did.
No,
That would have
It-
had an
well,
impact
we
on
did.
professional development.
3,500 came from, I'm sorry, I don't have the budget in front of me. 3,500 came from one place where I had to remove several thousand from the program line item to put that in. And then the remainder, I believe, paid from state aid. I'm sorry, I have to go back and check. But it wasn't put on all in one lump sum. It was divided up. So I have one
I
comment.
think, I think I had one, I'm not sure if it falls under the ARIS report or the state aid. There was a reference to reference service. And I just was curious, are people actually calling the library looking for reference help at this stage?
Reference is used really probably not appropriately in public libraries. The state counts anything as reference as long as it's not directional, meaning if somebody comes in and says, where are the restrooms, you don't count that under reference services. But
Good.
pretty much everything else is.
Good.
So that's just the way the state, that's their language. Or if somebody says, how do I get to children's area? That's a directional question. So that's not counted under reference, but pretty much everything else is.
And really, people are calling for information? I'm saying reference information?
Oh, sure. People, sometimes they don't have access to the internet. They'll call and ask us to look something up for them or, provide them with some links. When we provide links
Wow.
to something, we'll provide several so that we're not we can't really overly, suggest like one business or something like that. So, so yes, we do that.
Are you surprised? I am.
No, it's fine. We're a full service operation, Nan.
Wow, well, not during these times. You think the library is so busy trying to just do basic service that to call in and have someone research something for you, I think is a bit much.
No, we don't mind. We like that. We miss our patrons. Don't get me wrong. We missing our patrons. We're happy to spend time with them. Sometimes we'll, call back if it seems like it's going to be a lengthy conversation. It depends. So somebody can sort of prepare in front of a computer or something. We also sometimes, somebody wants an article from something and they can't receive it electronically, as long as it's not a violation of copyright, we will print that out and put it out for them for curbside pickup. So we do a number of things to support our patrons.
Amazing. Yeah,
We don't
amazing.
mind. We're happy to do it. We're happy to do it.
Okay.
So I want to make one clarification on E1, trust and endowment income. And I don't think there are page numbers on here, but it comes under operating. When I submitted the report, I did not have the final number. I submitted it because you can't be late with these reports, with the understanding that there would be an adjustment. So that number is actually $5,044.73. And once I had the final number, I emailed it to the state and they replaced it with the other one. But once it's locked and submitted, I can't reprint it. So that's why that number is there. But that was corrected, and it's probably one that you're most interested in. So that was $5,044.73. That's under E1.
Okay, 5,000.
Very good. So the next item on the agenda, number 5. Jean, I didn't cut you off, did I?
No, I'm all set unless anybody has any more questions.
My apologies. So number 5 on the agenda, strategic plan, the updated summary. I just wanted to say, Jean, I really appreciated your gesture of sort of rewriting a more inclusive summary about the strategic plan process. And I wondered if you want to talk about that at all. I was just really pleased.
No, I'm assuming everybody, I heard from several of you. So I think it was valid that I needed to take another look at it. And so your comments during the meeting were respectful and helpful. And I took all that into consideration when I rewrote it. So hopefully everybody's fine with it.
I really appreciate it. I just want to say that I thought it was such a gesture of inclusion, and I really appreciate it, Jean.
Sure.
Does anybody have any other comments before we move on to number 6?
Mary, I thought that item also, when you said strategic plan, I thought we were going to get updates on a monthly basis for what might be happening with the strategic plan. I don't imagine that anything has been sent to MLBC, MPLC. I mean, but I know that Julie said that they were going to have something about the action plan at the end of the summer, but I know that that's not even possible. But I know that sooner or later something will probably go, and I'm just wondering if we're going to have a regular update about what's happening on the strategic plan or anything.
So can you give me some direction on that, Matt? So should we make it an item and plan moving forward to have an update on the action plan every meeting, which I'm fine with that?
Would it
That's what I'd
behoove
like
us-
to recommend.
Would it behoove us to put this in the director's report so that Jean can provide the update appropriate to the context? Unless I'm misunderstanding Matt's comment and we're talking about things the board is doing in the action plans that we've established for ourselves as a board.
No, you didn't misunderstand me. That's exactly what I was thinking. That sounds fine to me.
Yeah, I agree. Jean, is that something that sounds reasonable to you?
I'm not sure exactly what it is that you're looking for. I will comment on, first of all, the action plan. Julie and I would be discussing the action plan. The Mass Board of Library Commissioners strongly recommends nobody try to follow an action plan right now. Or even look at the ones that you've written before, because the circumstances are so completely different for every library. They strongly recommend you don't even try to do an action plan at this point, to wait until things become, more settled, budgets are cut. We're pretty lucky in Auburn. A lot of libraries are having to go on waiver status because they didn't meet their total appropriated municipal income. So again, the board strongly says you can't, nobody can be assumed to be able to follow an action plan at this time. So,
Jean, it's not so much about you following it at this moment, but having it on the docket. So would it be possible to have that as an included header in your director's report, so that if and when there are updates down the line, it's just part of the update you're providing us in general versus potentially an action item in our agenda, because it's just really an update of what's happening, not that we're expecting actions to be taken in the current pandemic without the mindset that there are things that are changing because of that.
Right, we can discuss the timeframe and the process that how you're gonna implement it. Some of the tactics, who's gonna be doing what.
Right.
no, that wouldn't be part of an action plan or a report to the board. I mean, unless you're referring to the board doing something. But I wouldn't report who's doing what at the library. I don't know if that's what you meant or not.
Really do that. Okay.
That's, I'm gonna look for clarification on that item, Jennifer, because I appreciate the question. I'm just gonna reach out to Julie, just because I want to make sure, I understand Matt's question, and I understand Jean's comment about, the responsibilities of the board versus the director's report. But I think I'm gonna flush that out with Julie, just to make sure that I understand everything properly. Does anybody else have any comment about that before we move on to code of conduct for new business? Okay. So, as I said in our last meeting, Julie and Jean were kind enough to meet with me about a month ago. And some of, we all had concerns about certain, perceptions. And one of the main things that was a concern of mine was that I didn't feel like there's a safe place that we can actually talk about, resolve, and discuss issues. I felt like it felt a little like a power struggle. Julie's response to that was for us to take a look at the Auburn Board of Selectmen Code of Conduct and discuss whether or not we think that this would be something with the proper editing, naturally, because all of this would not apply to us, whether we could adopt that as a board, and whether we could vote on that, if we'd be prepared to vote on that tonight. So can I have input from the board regarding, has everybody reviewed it? Do you have questions about it, concerns about it?
I would just state that I don't think we should vote on anything today, because I think that there's so much that would need to be rewritten to meet what our limitations are, unfortunately, as a board compared to the Board of Selectmen. So until we have a working draft, I don't think it's appropriate for us to vote on a actual code of conduct. However, if we feel it's necessary to vote on establishing one, then by all means, I think we could go ahead and do that and move forward. That's my 2 cents.
I think that's a good idea.
I agree.
I agree.
I think the main pieces that popped out at me in the introduction, at the end of the first sentence, the code is a guide to inform and govern the behavior toward each other. Under standards of civility, what popped out at me was we acknowledge that individual members as a board, our conduct influences the tone of discussion and debate on the issues before the town. We'll treat each other, town employees, town volunteers, and members of the general public with courtesy and respect. We hope to do that anyway, but this would just be a formal agreement. We subscribe to the tradition of our town meeting that no speaker shall be allowed to indulge in personalities and must confine his or her remarks to the matter before the meeting. I think that this would be a very good idea to adopt a code of conduct, and I wanted to hear some input from Jean and from the board.
I don't, thank you for asking
Mary,
for
can
my,
I ask?
it's a board
what's the
discussion, probably not mine, but thank you.
I'm sorry, Jean, and then I think I heard Nan.
I know, I do think it could be simplified. There are a number of paragraphs that are beyond our
Yeah.
scope.
Yep, I agree.
Paula, were you trying to say something?
Oh, Paula.
Yeah, I was asking what the purpose is for us to adopt this,
Okay.
to sort of complement the Board of Selectmen, or just give me some clarification.
I think to be completely honest, I think
Sorry.
when I think of a code of conduct, I think of good boundaries, safe boundaries. But the other piece, the other document that I passed out regarding the 6-step problem solving, that I feel like would create more collaboration and room for growth as a whole team. So in terms of Julie's recommendation, it was really the code of conduct came right from her. And she said that the other boards in the town have adopted a version for themselves, and she recommended it. It wasn't something that I initiated, but I was open to it. So I'm interested in whether the board would like for us to pursue maybe a much more, as Nan put it, simplified code of conduct. I'm willing to write a draft for the next meeting. But do we see a need for this?
I think it's a good idea.
Why
Okay.
not? Yeah.
Yeah,
I would also suggest whatever draft you write, the Board of Selectmen just has the members of the board signing it. I think this should be a full Board of Trustees, all current employees of the library, including Jean. Obviously, we would definitely want the support here. And I think Julie should be on this as well. I think that just keeps it an open, everyone's aware, public piece, that it is a two-way street, and we are here as elected officials to support the library and support their full staff, even though Jean and a few others may be the ones who are the acting party in our meetings for the library.
well said. And I took note of that. Any other commentary about?
Yeah, I guess I'm where Paula is. I'm trying to understand, this idea came external to you and the conversation you were having. I'm wondering what the motivation for that was, or what the purpose is, not to do all the boards with having something like this, or what was the motivating force?
I think that I requested the meeting with Julie and with Jean because I was concerned as a new chairperson that there wasn't room for discussion, and that it felt very much, from my point of view, and I'm only speaking for myself, is that whenever we would, a member of the board would bring up a question or a concern, it felt as though it was being received that we were being harsh. I was also concerned that when we have had discussions during our meetings, that when there has been opinions that are not favorable to the board, that information didn't always come about in a very transparent way. We were introduced to letters that didn't have any signatures. We heard about generalized complaints. I heard some real personalized things that concerned me regarding members of the board being intimidating, which I've never observed that. So I said to Julie, with no uncertain terms, that it's really important, if I am going to be the chair, that we respect the board in terms of allowing people to be empowered to have input without being fearful of any retaliation. So when I brought that up to her, I was the one who came up with the problem-solving model, because I do think every problem has a solution, but it can be very variable, but it takes a lot of input to make sure that's something that we are all invested in. solutions or possible solutions. So the piece that Julie brought this forth because I was concerned that it wasn't safe to voice our opinions very openly as a board. So that's where it came from. Sorry if that was a bit long-winded, but I do. I'm sorry.
It was
Well, that's
helpful.
Right. I guess I understand where you're coming from, but when I put that together with your 6-step problem-solving model, I think, which is a very good model, I think we tried that. And I don't know what to say about any of this, except we tried that.
Okay.
The Board of Trustees sent a letter to Julie,
Yep.
and the town council responded to that letter with the fact that we have no authority or responsibility in anything operational.
Right.
Which means we're not even allowed, it seems, to use words like librarian.
Yeah.
So when you talk about problem solving, our vocabulary is so limited,
Right.
and I'm not sure how this should operate.
Right.
But I understand what your goal is. But I
Mhm.
think the letter from town council made it clear that there's not much room for problem solving.
Mm.
And maybe I misread that. And I like your optimism on that, Mary. I think it really is very important. But I don't know. I don't know that we're not very limited. It's just like when you were trying to talk about something earlier, then we get into whether that's operational or not.
Right. Right.
So I don't know how we solve problems when the opportunity for any kind of conversation is so clearly defined by town council.
Right.
And I don't think any other board is as restricted, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I think I'm going to use a very concrete example. I had brought up it way back, probably during the strategic plan process, that there have been a number of times that I've gone up and asked for help regarding something that involved the website. And
Excuse me, Mary,
well,
excuse me.
please,
I'm just gonna jump in here because making accusations against staff is not appropriate in a board meeting.
Jean, this is a perfect example. I'm so glad that you're interrupting me while I'm trying to talk because this is the perfect example. What I'm
It's a
saying
perfect
is,
example is that this should be brought up in a board
you
meeting.
don't have the floor. I have the floor. I'm the chairperson.
It doesn't mean that you should say things that shouldn't be said about staff in a board meeting, Mary.
I'm not
It's
saying anything about
inappropriate, and
staff.
there are boundaries for board members.
So I guess, Jean, I'm sorry, there are boundaries for all members. And as a patron, if there's a boundary or a barrier that needs to be addressed, we will address it. As far as your comment earlier, Matt, about the operations, it's not operational to ask that I have better customer service. That's not operational. That's feedback. So moving forward, what I've requested from Julie is that we would be allowed, all of the board members would be allowed email addresses. And I disagree with your earlier comment that if somebody has an issue, they have to come to you. Yes, we would hope that they would come to you, but we know in history, in humanity, that's not the case. This board experienced that was not the case. We were not addressed about no, I'm sorry, Jean, I'm
not sure what you're referring to. I'm doing my job as library director, and the board has its job as board members. And to cross the boundaries is not.
Do you hear yourself interrupting me when I'm talking?
I do, because I'm trying to stop the conversation from going a place it shouldn't go.
If I have to call the meeting, I'm going to call the meeting, but I'm going to ask you not to interrupt me.
Go right ahead.
Getting back to my point, Mr. Toth, we need to be able to have safe conversations that don't become combative. So I would like for us to table the code of conduct. I'm going to follow up with Julie about the parameters of that and get some input in terms of, I want to be able to speak without being interrupted during a meeting. Regardless of how anyone feels, you're welcome to wait until the end of whatever I have to say, and then you're welcome to be called on. But there should be no point
Everybody
where
else too.
there should be no point where I feel that I'm backed up against a wall and that I'm not allowed to be the chairperson. So I'm going to table this, and I make, you know, I appreciated the comments earlier about what the function of this would be, what the procedure would be. And I heard Jen's commentary earlier that we would have to, this should be all inclusive. So if we're signing, a signature would be board members, library staff, the director, and the town manager, so that we're all in agreement. So I will table that for right now. I need to move on to the next agenda item with respect to the time in the meeting. So what I introduced was via email, and I apologize, Nan, next time I'll bring it to you. The six-step problem-solving method, the goal of it is very simple. As it is pretty much synthesized on number 6 on the second page, which says, the goal is not to solve, but evolve. Adjusting the solution continually as the challenges emerge through repeating the six-step process. It's a growth model. So every issue that comes up, we should, as a board, representing the community, representing the patrons and our constituents, we should feel that we can bring an issue up and that we would all stay within the parameters of how we solve that problem. So the 6 steps that are included in this particular model are to define the model, to determine the root, the context, the history of the problem. Number 3, to develop alternative solutions, select a solution, and again, that would be inclusive of everyone, implement the solution, and then evaluate the outcome. The goal would not be, to go back to your point earlier, Matt, the point would not be for us to operate the library, but rather if I get an email from a patron and they have an issue that they want to be addressed, I would like to be able to come to the board, bring that issue up without feeling that I have to name the person who said it or to feel that I should be on the defense. And we should be able to walk through it and come up with a solution and then follow up on the next meeting of how that's going. And whether or not it needs to be a working document that maybe the solution changes as the need set changes in the library. But I presented it because I see a need on our team to be more inclusive.
Mary?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I want to echo back to your comments that we've had previously tied to the code of conduct. I think there are 2 important pieces with this. One, it's just having something as a reference to go back to if there were to be an issue to arise.
Right.
That's the moral of all of this. It's reminding us we all have something to look back to.
Yeah.
2, with this piece, I appreciate you bringing it forward, and I think it's important, especially since we have rehashed an exorbitant amount of times the same topic, simply because one party or another is still upset about the discussion and what was had. We have to be able to conclude issues in a timely manner and not continue to rehash them. Individually, as a board, we have to be able to move on and keep moving forward. So regardless of the next steps in a code of conduct, I think the point you're bringing with this plan is more that we address things, tackle them head on, and move to the next piece, and only come back if something new were to arise that would alter an evaluation of the prior process, not to keep beating a dead horse.
Right. I agree. I agree. And I guess I just want it to be safe for everyone. And if I bring up an issue that comes up, I don't want to be accused of criticizing someone, because that's very closed idea. Bringing up an issue should be looking for a solution. It shouldn't be looking for fault or blame. So does anybody else have any input? Is this something that we could consider adoption? We don't have to vote on it tonight, as I said, but I just want to hear some input from the team.
So I have a comment. If they're operational issues, they involve staff. I would not discuss any of these at a board meeting. If there's something that needs to be brought to my attention, I am wide open to that, but they are not appropriate for board discussions. I don't discuss staff. We don't assess staff. The board does not assess staff. They don't assess the director either. So a lot of what I think where you're going, and I might be wrong, they would not be appropriate board discussions. And if you make an that would be really you making an assessment or a judgment on a certain operation or how something was handled. And that's not a board responsibility, and it's not within
That's
board
not at all
authority.
what we're talking about. This is how we would solve a problem if a problem was brought to the board. So for example, we started this meeting talking about whether or not we needed to update the policy because you have portable laptops. And you kept saying, well, it's the same, they all know this. We have a board responsibility to have a policy. We would utilize this problem-solving 6-step piece to address the problem and solve the solution, which is update a policy, including the DVDs, because they now have portable DVD players. This is not an operational who's doing what. And if someone comes forward and says, I had a bad experience, we're not talking about staff. We're talking about the individual's experience that they are telling us about and that brought to us, and we address it. We can talk through that. We're not asking you to tell us how one staff member did what. We're just stating this issue was brought up. We're addressing it. It is a problem-solving piece. It is not a criticism or an attack or an evolution of how the operation's running. Just so we can actually get through topics and not have this back and forth that isn't needed when it's straightforward updates.
Well said.
Policies are certain things do fall within the board. I'm not questioning that. I'm just saying a lot of these have to do with operations and management of the library, and that's not within the purview of the board. So I would just say it has to be very careful about which issues that the board thinks should be brought to the attention in a
And that would
public
be
meeting.
part of the problem-solving process that Mary brought up. It would be step 2. What is the root problem of this? Oh, the root problem is an operational piece. Great, we will move this to Jean and Julie and the staff, and the board will not be involved. We've wrapped up the problem-solving piece. We move on to the next topic.
Well
We are
said.
not at all saying you're wrong.
And I will follow up with Julie about both of these items and get her advice tomorrow. But I want to reiterate again, when I say safe, when I use the term safe, what I mean is that I'm allowed to be me, and every individual on this board, and Jean, you as well, you're allowed to be you. That should include not interrupting, not putting people on the defense. I've never made in any time any critical comment about any individual. And I want to strike that because I want that to stop. Nobody should be accused of doing something that all we're doing is we're trying to fulfill our role that we've been elected to fulfill. So I stand by that. And I really want to put behind us what feels like attack mode has to go. And I think that this is the way to move forward. I will discuss it with her for the parameters, and I respect everyone's input, whether I agree or disagree. I am very mindful of the time. So is it okay with the board if I put off the youth survey to the next meeting and the review of discussion of the BOT tactics and maybe hear from Jennifer regarding the diversity and inclusion policy?
Have we
Actually,
seen the,
Excuse me.
Yep.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Ann.
have we seen the policy, or is that yet to come?
I thought you were going to hear from Jean about that, Julie about that.
So what my last that I learned was that Julie she overlooked the email and she had intended to move it forward, Jen, but she realized just about 2 weeks ago, Matt, right? That she missed it. So the last information that we have that we talked about in our last meeting was that Julie moved the diversity and inclusion policy review forward, but that just happened about 2 weeks ago.
She sent it to town council to be reviewed, right?
That's right.
And it just got sent to them.
Just
We
about 2
haven't
weeks ago. Do you have any update, Jen, other than that?
I haven't heard a darn thing.
Okay.
So.
Very good. So I'm just going to say quickly, I did email out Dr. Hanfield, but I realized it bounced back to me. So I was just going to reach out to him about any sort of time frame that we could have a youth survey. going back to the points about the COVID-19 and the constricted nature of life as we know it, I just want to get a ballpark so that we have that covered in terms of being able to plan moving forward. I don't expect the youth survey to be completed at any time very soon, but I did intend to connect with him, and it was sort of a misfire. In terms of the BOT tactics, can I put that off until the next meeting, team?
Sure.
Are we okay with that?
Yes.
So our next meeting will be Wednesday, December 2nd at 6:30 p.m. Does anybody have anything else before I move to adjourn?
Is somebody talking? I can't,
I thought I could hear someone talking too.
yeah.
Okay, so can I
I
have
make
a
a
motion?
motion.
Okay,
I make
sorry.
a motion that we break.
I'll second.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.